Hey everybody, welcome back to the Arma 3 lore series, as we go on with the next part of the East Wind campaign, Adapt. It is the 9th of July 2035. Amazingly, still alive, Kerry wakes up and finds himself on the sands of an unknown beach. While jets buzz over and explosions ring faintly in the distance, unsure of where he ended up, Kerry spots another person lying on the beach. On closer inspection, it is revealed to be the corpse of one of the CGRG operators that escaped alongside him, Sergeant Hardy. Then Kerry hears a voice emanating from Hardy's radio, which he proceeds to pick up and respond to. James quickly updates Kerry on the current situation. He and the rest of the CGRG team have landed onto the shores of Altis, the big island of the Republic, and they are actively assisting the FIA in waging an insurgency against the AAF and CZ forces. Kerry needs to regroup with the team. He has no map and needs to find a way just by information given by James. Because of the fighting and the sounds Kerry hears, James assumes that Kerry is close to Agalochori, a small town just on the outskirts of the former capital city of Kavala. Kerry needs to link up with them as soon as possible before it gets dark, all the while avoiding the heavy CZ AAF presence in the area due to the ongoing counterinsurgency operations taking place in the city. After evading the numerous patrols and vehicle convoys passing through, Kerry finally reaches James' position. They set up an overwatch as they observe the operation taking place in Kavala. When night finally arrives, they move out of their impromptu overwatch, heading north along the ridgeline to link up with the remainder of Falcon. But before they can join together, however, a CZ helicopter seizes its patrol and begins to hover in position for landing, having spotted the other CGRG members.
Okay, take the yank and get to the power plant. We'll take this from here. Roger that. See you at the objection. Alright.
They ditch their initial plan and split up the team. They rendezvous at a nearby disused power plant with a local FIA contact call sign Slingshot. Kerry and Slingshot go further by car and drive north along the main road. They pass through several military checkpoints and drop off the rest of the guerrilla fighters at towns along the way. Thanks to their extensive insider contacts amongst the AAF ranks, the crew pass through the checkpoints uneventfully. Then, as they reach the final checkpoint, they encounter a large group of CZ forces manning the barricades alongside the AAF with no familiar faces. Slingshot attempts to negotiate, but with no luck. At the same time, Kerry overhears a radio message from Miller. He is forced to relocate and is trapped by CZ forces and needs support. Because they can't use the main road anymore, they turn on a dirt road that's leading them straight to Miller. Cautiously driving along the dirt road to a small village, and they halt the car just a few hundred meters away from the new rendezvous point. Miller warns Kerry and Slingshot of an incoming CZ patrol that are in the process of cornering him. At the same time, the guerrilla sniper arrives to help, and together they clear out the enemy squad and regroup. Their position was compromised and they leave for the main base, arriving just as dawn begins to break. Kerry settles in and assists the guerrillas as best he can, scouting the surrounding areas for supplies and taking out roaming AAF patrols. Between missions, you can come to the main entrance of the base and start a patrol, filling the gap of the story. 10 days later, however, the supply situation at the camp is about to go critical, as the FIA lost much of their manpower and caches from the CZ AAF raids in Kavala. The next day, Kerry joins up with James and the rest of the CGRG Falcon unit, with their primary goal being to find a good position to ambush a convoy. But before they can move out, however, James' squad are given orders to divert elsewhere by Miller, leaving Kerry with the responsibility instead. Kerry is reassigned by Stavro and left to command another squad that go by the call sign Omega, entrusting the entire mission into Kerry's hands. Much to Kerry's annoyance, the guerrillas voice doubt about his presumed lack of skills to handle the raid, but agree to change in leadership anyway. Omega set up the trap along the convoy's route and pull off the ambush successfully, disabling the ammunition truck and eliminating both of its escorts. After repairing it back into usable condition, they drive the truck away to a nearby hideout before the additional CSAT reinforcements can arrive. Whether the truck was deliberately set up as a lure or the guerrillas' plans were discovered somehow, the FIA suddenly comes under attack of all sides by CSAT forces. Even the main camp at Bomos takes fire, with Stavro and the rest of the guerrillas being forced to evacuate to a secondary base camp, an abandoned industrial complex located near Gori. To make matters worse, Omega are forced to abandon and destroy the truck as well to prevent CSAT from reclaiming it. Most of the guerrillas manage to reach the new camp, though their supply situation continues to remain in a dire condition. Stavro plans yet another operation aimed at obtaining much needed supplies, this time against a loosely manned AAF outpost near Freiny. The next day, the guerrillas prepare to strike the outpost, with Omega leading the assault after neutralizing the outpost sentries first. The undermanned AAF garrison are completely overwhelmed by the guerrillas, with the FIA managing to seize control of its supplies and heavy weapons. An FIA truck call sign Kappa soon arrives on station to load up the outpost supplies. When the operation appears to be going to plan, the outpost suddenly comes under mortar fire. Omega are then retasked with quickly hunting down and neutralizing the AAF mortar teams, who are hiding somewhere in Freiny, while the remainder of the guerrillas stay behind to protect Kappa. After a heated firefight, Omega successfully eliminates both the mortar teams and their guards. However, Miller suddenly radios in to warn the FIA of an incoming platoon of CSAT AAF mechanized troops, rapidly closing on their position to retake the outpost. Despite Kappa's slowness in loading up the supplies, the entire force managed to escape together in one piece at the last moment, moments before CSAT armor and airstrikes begin bombarding the outpost. Their successful operation is short-lived, however, as the FIA are also running low on fuel for their vehicles. Stavro tasks Omega and the other teams with retrieving a fuel cistern at the mining complex just to the south of the main Kavala highway, along with several of their vehicles that were confiscated from them by the AAF. Under the cover of darkness, Omega regroups with the other teams that have already infiltrated into the area surrounding the complex. The FIA assault the facility and retrieve the truck from the AAF. But run into yet another setback after discovering that the system was already out of fuel.
Wait, what the hell?
At the same time, Miller radios in to inform the FIA of another fuel truck further south of the complex, at the construction site in Alicampos, but it's guarded by CSAT recon troops. Determined to take the truck in spite of the risk, Stavro orders Omega and Kappa to assault the site together. After a heated firefight, the guerrillas successfully seize the truck and begin to drive it back to the hideout. Then Miller radios in again to inform Kerry of an opportunity to assassinate a CSAT high-value target, but would also mean that the truck would be need to sacrifice in the process. With this information, the player has 3 choices: deliver the truck to the FIA in the hideout and end the mission. You could also deliver the truck to Miller's CTRG team, and then they could assassinate the CZ H3T, ending the mission and leaving the FIA not so happy. The best choice is to neither sacrifice the truck nor allow the H3T to escape. The next day, Stravo informs the guerrillas that an AAF officer, along with 2 other subordinates, has come to them and offered to defect. Believing that it to be an excellent opportunity to strike a blow against the AAF and CZ, as well as obtaining a valuable ally, Stravo agrees in spite of the risk involved. Omega moves in to meet with the officer, call sign Orestes, and take him and his subordinates back to camp. But his defection had not gone entirely unnoticed, however. The officer is killed by CZ patrol, who followed the trio's vehicle all the way to the meeting point. With the help of the guerrillas, they eliminate the pursuers. Knowing that he didn't have much time left before his betrayal would be discovered, Orestes plans one last act to sabotage against his former benefactors. He offers the guerrillas an opportunity to inflict some payback for the Cavalry raid, by having CZ call in artillery to destroy their own vehicle repair depot, or call in reinforcements by helicopter and destroying it after an attack on a CZ patrol. On return to the camp, Orestes gives the FIA information on the whereabouts of one of the group's key figures, Nikos Panagopoulos, who was previously captured by the AAF and being held on Stratis. Miller leads a group of CTRG operatives and elite guerrillas to infiltrate Stratis via boats in order to rescue Nikos. When they approach Stratis, Miller goes over the plan one more time. Kerry's team is tasked with creating havoc in the southern part of the island, forcing the bulk of the AAF CZ forces to divert reinforcements away from Camp Tempest, where Nikos is being held. At the same time, Miller's team has an opening to extract Nikos safe from the island. Kerry and the remainder of the teams evacuate from Stratis and return to Altis. Nikos informs Stravo that Nato is planning an invasion on Altis, with Miller further confirming Nato forces inbound. The FIA plans to assist the invasion by seizing the nearby towns of Teresa, Poliaco and the Altis Aerial Club airfield to the south in order to draw the bulk of the AAF away from the main international airport, leaving Nato to deal with just the CZ forces. Omega are assigned to assault and destroy the command post in the center of Poliaco. After some heavy fighting, Kerry's squad managed to destroy the artillery position and eliminate its defenders. They obtain control of the enemy command post, but then are forced to fight off an ambush by CZ special forces before finally declaring the town to be secure. NATO helicopters are suddenly spotted flying over their position, heading directly for the AAC airfield. Immediately afterwards, they open fire on the main FIA elements, decimating the guerrillas and seemingly causing Stravo's death in the process. Kerry frantically tries to contact Miller, but fails to obtain a response. He spots one of the 2 helicopters being forced to auto-rotate to the ground after taking damage to its rotors. Seeing a chance to inform NATO forces to call off their assault on the airfield, Omega moves to secure the crash site, fighting off a small team of AAF troopers in the process and rescuing the pilot. Still shaken up by the crash, the pilot promptly relays Kerry's information back to the NATO command, telling the forces attacking the airfield to stand down.
November, priority, crossroads, priority! Cease fire on the airfield. We're firing on friendlies. Over.
The next morning, Kerry reports to the invasion force commander, call sign Crossroads, about the situation and the whereabouts of Miller, who was supposedly meant to have in contact with the task force. Crossroads informs Kerry that he has no knowledge of a Captain Scott Miller and that they don't have been in contact with any British forces ever since the withdrawal from the country months earlier. Astonished at Miller's supposed betrayal, Kerry makes his way onto the helicopter as Crossroads debriefs him. And that brings us to the end of this episode, and we'll continue Kerry's story in the East Wind Win episode. I hope you enjoyed and maybe learned a thing or two. See you next time. Bye!